Hey everyone, and welcome to FlowFest V2. We're really excited to be back with another fantastic hackathon-style event dedicated to Flow. So thank you very much for being here. We've had a huge reaction to V2 of this event, bigger than the first. So yeah, very excited to get stuck in. First thing to say very quickly is please ignore all of the spam comments on LinkedIn. It's a problem. It's a problem with LinkedIn, and we're trying to report them and delete them. But please do not click on any of those spammy links. They should stop in a second once we've reported all of them. So let's get started. So first off, in true Salesforce fashion, a big thank you to everyone involved in the event, but especially everyone that's supporting it and attending today. Just to give you an idea of the scale of the event, everyone on the top there is everyone who's involved with FlowFest. Everyone from judges to hosts to speakers to people behind the scenes putting together the challenges technically. So it's quite a big undertaking, but as you can see, the numbers are absolutely huge. So we've had 2,400 people RSVP, over 2,200 registrations. So these are people competing or signing up to compete or spectate. It was about 50-50, I think, with spectators and people wanting to compete. Unfortunately, we could only have a smaller number, but we've got 200 competitors this time, which is 100 more than last time. So competition is a lot more fierce. We also have 9 judges who are going to be judging the flows in the background, and 7 speakers for you today on the event. And of course, 1 FlowFest champion. So just to give you an idea, we'll give you, if it's your first FlowFest, or if you have no idea what's going on, then we've got you covered. But just to give you a high-level overview. So FlowFest is a hackathon-style event with 200 competitors designed to challenge, educate, and inspire you with Salesforce Flow. So in a nutshell, we've got all these competitors that are going to do a series of challenges, and the person that completes all of them first is going to be crowned FlowFest champion. Just to introduce myself very quickly. So my name is Ben McCarthy. I'm founder of SalesforceBen.com. I've got 10 years experience in the Salesforce ecosystem and a bit of a jack of all trades, worked kind of across every company. Been an admin, worked for Conga, the big ISV, and set up a Salesforce consultancy as well. But very happy to be at SalesforceBen full time and being able to put on really cool events like this. So just a quick word from our sponsor. So if you don't know Salto, they are a free impact analysis tool for Salesforce admins. So they've got a free tier of their product. So check it out right now. It's very cool. You can do things like metadata search. You might know the where is it used function in Salesforce. Well, theirs works with standard and custom fields. It's got metadata comparison and also change notifications from when something changes in your Salesforce org. So we've got a demo later on because it's a really cool free tool that can support your migrations with Flow. So yeah, stick around for that. So this is the agenda today. So first off, we're going to give you Eric, my co-founder of FlowFest, is going to give us a walkthrough about how FlowFest works. We're then going to go into a challenge walkthrough. So if you haven't competed before or you're interested in the future, this is going to give you a really good idea of what actually goes on behind the scenes with our competitors. Next, we've got a presentation by Stephen Church of 5 steps to build better record-triggered flows in Salesforce. This is quite a new feature, so definitely very important if you're new to flows or if you're experienced and want to learn best practices. We've then got a demo of the Salto tool to help you with your flow migration. Trailhead Academy are also supporting this event, which is great to get support from the mothership themselves. So they've donated some prizes, and they're also going to tell us a bit about how you can get skilled up on Flow further using their resources. Then we've got another presentation from Tim Combridge about the Flow updates in Summer 22, so some of the latest and greatest features. And then we're going to crown the FlowFest champion. And then we've got an after show as well, which I'll talk about just in a second. So there's ways that you can join in. First off, please chat with each other. The chat last time was really vibrant. There were people asking questions, people helping each other out. So please feel free to introduce yourself, ask questions, and try and help people out as well. We've got some quizzes throughout. So you can win some Flow courses donated by Daryl Moon, who is founder of Certified CRM and also a judge for FlowFest, and Andy Utkan, who is founder of SalesforceBreak.com, and is also a judge at FlowFest. And if you scan that QR code, Andy has currently got a discount, especially for FlowFest. So I believe it's $12.99 for his Lightning Flow course. So so scan that, and you can get a discount, and that expires in a few days. So yeah, make sure to check that out. So how does the competition work? So at a very high level, we've got 200 competitors, and they started, I think, about half an hour ago, 15 minutes ago, just to make sure they have enough time before the end of the event. They're going to be sent 7 challenges, and they have to do these challenges sequentially, submit them for a judge to validate, and then move on to the next one. And the winner is the first person to go through all 7 challenges without getting anything wrong. If they get something wrong, then they have to go back and redo something. For the last half an hour after the winner is announced, we're going to have an after show. So hopefully we're going to bring the FlowFest champion on. We're going to bring some of the judges on and talk through some of the flows that they have been, some of the flow challenges they've been solving. So these are some of our judges. So a big shout out to these guys and girls, because these people have put so much effort into the event. So they've had to come up with the challenges. There's so much tech behind the scenes to make FlowFest work. So you'll get a glimpse of that in a minute, but it's really, really impressive. And these people have been putting in a huge amount of effort. So we've got a few familiar faces from FlowFest V1, but we've also got Yumi, who some of you might know is FlowFest champion in V1. So great to have Yumi on board, and Tom Bassett also, who came a very close second. So great to have Yumi and Tom on board. And then also Michelle Hansen is joining us, who is a flow expert as well. So welcome on board to our new judges. So the prizes for FlowFest. So first prize, and the prize that everyone wants, is to be crowned FlowFest champion. So imagine having that on your CV when Flow is like, the latest and greatest automation tool. That would be pretty cool. And then kindly from Trailhead Academy, they have donated 10 certification vouchers. So first prize, as well as the top 10, is going to be receiving a certification voucher from Trailhead Academy. So I'm now going to bring in Eric. Hey, Eric, how's it going?
Doing pretty good. How about yourself, Ben?
Good. Yes. Glad to be back. It's very, very exciting. Cool. So I'm going to hand over to you now, and you're going to give us a bit of an overview about how FlowFest works behind the scenes. And I'll see you in a second.
I'm totally ready. Let's do this. Let's kick this off. All right. So, hey, everyone. My name is Eric. I'm the co-founder of Ohanaly. And just a quick walkthrough. Can we skip to the slides here? And Ben, how can I jump a slide here?
Have you shared your screen?
No, I'm going through your slides. But in any case, I can walk everyone through how FlowFest works and how we're doing this. Yeah, that works. That's not a problem. So really quick while we bring all of that up. So I'm going to bring the old school and classic way of how this works. And here. So I'm going to give you a walkthrough in Flow about how FlowFest works. By now, all of the participants have been selected. They've been sent instructions. They have created their own dev orgs, and they've set up a FlowFest app. So basically, and they've submitted a test challenge as well to make sure that they have everything that they need for the competition. That enables us to understand that they have everything that they need. Really cool. Part of this challenge, as we're going through, is that we receive all of their submissions into an org of our own. So we can, and we will, be showing to you live the progress. As progress starts trickling in, we'll be able to show you the leaderboard. This dashboard isn't refreshed yet, but we will be able to show that that progress, and be able to show in between the presentations how everything's going. The competition has started, and we're running the competition. We are everyone's submitting their challenges. Challenges are coming in at a neck-breaking pace right now, to be honest. I can perhaps even share. Let's see if we have anything here. So here we have all of these challenges coming in, and they're coming in by the second, where we can see based on all of the submissions that they have, what they've done correctly, if they've gotten something wrong, who's got things correctly, and what challenges have they completed. So basically, we do our fast review. Once they complete all of their challenges, they'll get assigned to a judge. Everyone right now is in a Zoom meeting that is dedicated to the participants. And once they complete all the challenges, the Zoom moderator gets notified, and they'll assign that person to a judge. Their work will be carefully reviewed one by one. Every one of the judges has a judge's review sheet where they're going to be going item by item on each challenge, saying, hey, I want to see this element, I want to see this formula, I want to see this item. And basically be able to review if they've done everything up to spec. And very excitingly, actually, and this is completely new for FlowFest V2, and I think this may be a global first, because I don't know of anyone doing this. We are doing Fix My Flow. So not only are the participants having challenges where they have to build flows, but our team of judges have been clever enough to build some flows that have errors in them. And the challenge for the participants is to actually figure out what's wrong and be able to successfully submit the flow. So it's super exciting this time around, and it actually kind of helps promote best practices and teaching people how to properly troubleshoot these. And we hope that within a week's time, we'll be able to make this available to all spectators. So if you want to install this in a dev org yourself, we'll have video walkthroughs of how to do each individual challenge, so you can put your feet in the competitor's shoes and see what they're going through today in order to fight for a challenge, for a certification voucher. And finally, once the review is done by the judges, so long as everything in the reference sheet is done, if they are within the top 10, they will be assigned a certification voucher. And just in case we do not have the top 3 finishers that we want to announce today by the end of this live stream, we will do it by order of successful submissions. Who submitted the most challenges successfully in order of time. So that is a quick overview right now. I'll bring back Ben. And listen, we're super excited. I hope you guys are as well. And just before I sign off, for everyone in the comments, I want to hear if people are team auto layout or team freeform, because that's always a fun conversation to have. But back to you, Ben.
Great. Thank you very much, Eric. So our first quiz. So remember, you are fighting for some free courses from Daryl, free flow courses from Daryl and Andy. So the first question, and please write this in the comments, and we will randomly select some of the first people who get it right. Unfortunately, we can't see the way the chat works. Very hard to see like the definitive person who got it right. So yeah, give it your best shot. So which CEO invested in Salesforce in the late 90s and then became one of their largest competitors? Write your answers in the comments. And if you're one of the lucky ones to get it right, then you'll be in for a chance to win a Flow course, which is very important nowadays, with Flow becoming the de facto automation tool. I'll give people a few more seconds and then I will reveal the answer.
Just jumping in while we're waiting for people to respond and revealing the answer. Turkey so far takes the lead as a country with the most number of submissions. Turkey and Canada are right now on the battle, just to share an update, and I'll be gone.
Nice. Cheers, Eric. And so the answer is Larry Ellison. So Larry Ellison, CEO of Oracle, invested in Salesforce, one of the first seed investors in Salesforce. And then, as most people know, Oracle grew to be Salesforce grew to be a huge competitor of Oracle. So next up, so I'm going to provide a video to you now, recorded by Melody earlier. She's busy away judging the competition, which is going to show you an overview of one of the challenges. So if you're interested in the future, this is going to give you a great overview. So I'll pass over to Melody and I will see you back in a second.
Hello everyone, I hope you're enjoying FlowFest, and now I'm gonna walk you through one of the challenges and to explain the concepts that we are testing. So challenge 18 is that I have a screen flow that lets user choose an account, and then Flow will then clone that account. After the cloning, I want to have a screen that shows the links to both the original record and the newly created record. However, the flow doesn't seem to work, and can you help me to fix it? There are several notes here. First is that we cannot use another get records. Second is we cannot modify the create records. The concepts that we are testing in this challenge is, first, how to configure a record choice set. Second, how the create records element works. Third, how to write a dynamic URL. And finally, how to add hyperlinks in display text component. So that's going to our flow. Let's take a quick look of what this flow is currently doing. So it has a screen that let user choose an account to clone. And the choices is using account list, which is the record choice sets. And then I have a get records element to get the account that I choose in the previous screen using the ID. Then I have an assignment to update some of the values in that account variable. For example, the new name, I want to add the clone at the end. And then I have a create records element, and I use that account record variable to create a new account. After the new account is created, I have another assignment to update the original record ID variable, which is the text variable, with the ID from that account record variable. And finally, I have a screen to show the links to both the original record and the new record. So the link here, if we look at the hyperlink, it's using original record URL and new record URL, which is two formula resources here. So in the resource, we have an original record URL, new record URL, account list as record choice sets, and a text variable called original record ID. So to find out the issue in this flow, first we have to do a debug. And I'll choose Marshall Kelly. Now the flow seems to run correctly, but when I click on the link, you will see that it's not really linking me to any record. This means that the hyperlinks are probably configured incorrectly. Also, if we scroll to the debug details, we will see that in the get records element, it's not really finding any records. The reason is because the choice value is saved as Marshall Kelly, and the get records is saying ID equals Marshall Kelly. So this is not going to work because Marshall Kelly is the account name, but this get records is using the ID. So let's go back to the flow to find out these issues. So first we want to look at the hyperlinks, why the hyperlinks is not correct. So if we open the hyperlink again, you will see that there's actually missing an exclamation mark in front of the variable. If you want to use a variable as a hyperlink, try not to hard code the variables here. What you should do is, since you have a display text, you can just go in here and then find the variables you want to use. After that, you copy this, and then you can use it in the hyperlink. Always try to avoid hard coding your variables. So let's look at the second hyperlink as well. It's also missing an exclamation mark. And let's save it. And the second problem that we identify is the choice is not returning the correct value. And that's related to the record choice sets. So if we open the record choice set and scroll down, you will see that the choice value is now saving the name, but what we really want is the ID. So here we have to change it into ID. Okay, now let's save the flow and then to see what happened. Alright, now we can see the choice value is returning the ID, and the get records, it's finding the correct record. And so now let's try with our hyperlink again. You will see that it's linking to a record. However, when I click to the original record, it is returning the new record. Why is that? Let's go back to our flow again. So this is related to the third concept, how create records works. So if we click to the create records again, we are using the account record variable. It's very important to note that once we use a record variable in the create records, the ID of this record variable will be replaced with the newly created record ID. So when we have an assignment after the create records, it's actually storing the new ID instead of the old ones. So this assignment is at the wrong place. We should copy the old account ID before we use the create records. So let's change this to a free form. And I'm going to drag this out and delete all the links. So what we should really do is first copy the old account ID, and then we can use the account variable in the create records. And after the create records, the new record ID will be stored back to the account record variable. Lastly, we also have to fix the URL. So what we can do is we can open this one, and then we copy the whole formula, and then we can paste it here. And the only thing we need to change is the newly record ID. So I can get that from our account record variable and the ID. Because again, after the create records element, this one will be storing the new record ID. Our last concept is the dynamic URL. So you don't have to create this formula in this challenge, but it is important to know that this formula will return the URL to your org. So when you're building your flow, instead of hard coding, you should always try to use formula to get a URL dynamically. So let's go ahead and save this variable and then save this flow, and let's try to debug again. So just to make it clear, I will choose another account now. So I will choose Simpsons, Cons, and Higgins. And now let's try the URL again. So this one should link to the original record, which is correct. And this one should link to the new record, which is also correct. So that's it for challenge 18.
Thank you very much, Melody. So that gives you an idea about what a challenge looks like. If you find that super easy, then definitely sign up as a competitor. But hopefully you've learned something from that anyway about debugging and the proper ways to use no hard coding URLs, etc. So yeah, thank you, Melody. So next up, I'm going to be introducing Stephen, who's going to be talking to us about better ways to build record-triggered flows. Hey, Stephen, you there?
I'm here, Ben. Can you hear me?
Cool. Yes, loud and clear. Great. So thank you very much for being here, Stephen. Really interested to listen to your presentation. So I'll add your presentation in, and then you can take it away.
All right. Thank you. Greetings, flow builders. As Ben said, my name's Stephen Church. I am a Salesforce admin at a startup in Austin, Texas. And I guess you could call me a flow enthusiast too. I've been writing about flow every Monday through Friday on LinkedIn, sharing things I've learned about using the tool. And I'm really happy to be here at this awesome event to talk about record-triggered flows with you. So let's dive on in. So firstly, in the world of all things flow, why am I talking about record-triggered flows? Well, unless you're extremely new to Salesforce or have been living under a rock, you've probably heard that Salesforce is going to be retiring workflow rules and process builders. And the logic that you used to put in those tools is now going to have to be built in record-triggered flows. Now, one of the key milestones in this process of retiring these tools is turning off the ability to create new process builders and new workflow rules. And as you can see in the screen grab, Salesforce are estimating that that could be by the end of this year. So what that means is learning record-triggered flows is imperative and highly time sensitive. So that's why I'm going to be focusing on this today. So what I want to go through are 5 key steps that I think can get you on the path to building record-triggered flows. This certainly isn't everything you need to consider, and there's lots of other things you need to do to build record-triggered flows. But in my opinion, if you follow these 5 steps, you're going to be well on the path towards building better record-triggered flows. So let's dive in with one of the most hotly debated topics when it comes to flow, and that is how many flows per object should you have? And the answer to this question is going to inform the flows per object strategy in your org. And it's really important to establish a strategy for how many flows per object you have. Otherwise, things are going to be chaotic and confusing in your org. So before we dive into the new strategy that's emerging, let's take a look at where we've come from. So for a while, the established best practice for flows per object has generally been one before save flow, one after save flow, and one before delete flow. Now, the reason for that was because you had no way whatsoever to control the order in which your flows were running. So if you had multiple flows of the same type on the same object, there was no way for you to reliably test or debug your flows. Now, the spring 2022 release that we've just had is a complete game changer because Salesforce has now given us the ability to control the order in which our record-triggered flows run. So that has led to the emergence of a new strategy where you have many flows of each type with a focus on smaller flows for specific use cases and entry conditions to only run those flows when they need to run, and then using this new feature to control the order that they run in. As far as I'm aware, Salesforce has not explicitly recommended one strategy over another, but as you can see from the bullet points on the screen, I view the second bullet point as pretty strong encouragement that if you use entry conditions carefully to only run flows when they need to run, you can see significant performance improvements. So the rest of the steps I'm going to cover today are going to assume you're leaning more towards the new strategy. But regardless of what your opinions are on this topic, the most critical thing to do is start dialogue in your org to establish a flows per object strategy. So this next step is, in my opinion, one of the simplest and most powerful things you can do to build better record-triggered flows. And that is following a simple golden rule to decide whether something should be in a before save flow or whether it should be in an after save flow. So let's start with a scenario where an automation is needed when a record is created or edited. So the golden rule really just requires you to ask the question, are you updating the same record that was created or edited? If the answer to that question is yes, it's highly likely that that should be going in a before save flow, which is also called fast field updates when you're in flow. If the answer to that question is no, then it should be going in an after save flow, which is called actions and related records. So why is that? Well, first and foremost, before save flows are pretty limited in terms of what you can do from an action perspective. All you can really do is update the same record that triggered the flow. So everything else like updating related records, creating records, email alerts, they have to go in after save flows. So then the question becomes, is it more efficient to update the same record that triggered the flow in a before save flow, or is it more efficient in an after save flow? The resounding answer to that question is that it is more efficient in a before save flow. Now, to really understand why, you have to be familiar with what is called the order of execution. When records are created or edited in Salesforce, all of the Salesforce logic runs in a certain order. Now, before save flows, they run before the record has finished saving. So what that means is if you use these flows to change their field values, the record isn't having to be formally resaved and go through that save process. After save flows, on the other hand, because it's after the save has completed, if you save the same record at that point, it has to go back through the save process. So that's exactly why before save flows are more efficient, because they don't have to go back through that resource-intensive save process. So we briefly touched on how Salesforce have suggested that using entry conditions can help you build better performing flows. In my opinion, the most important thing you can do to start working towards that is to get in the habit of asking good questions to be as specific as possible. So let's take a scenario which is here on the screen. A customer says, I want an automation to run when the account rating is hot. So you could take that requirement at face value, but what I would encourage a flow builder to do is think about good follow-up questions to ask to try and be more specific. So for example, should it run when it's changed to hot, or should it run whenever it's hot? Because think about it, they're two very different things. A flow that runs every time the account rating is hot is going to run a lot more than a flow that only runs when it's changed to hot. A similar follow-up question you could ask is, should it run if it's changed to hot from a specific value like cold, or does it not matter what value? Again, if the flow only runs when it's changed from cold, it's likely going to run less than when it's changed from any value. So let's assume in this example, the answer to the questions are, it should run when it's changed to hot and it was changed from cold. As you can see on the next slide, the entry conditions we have on the left are way more specific and granular than just saying the flow should run when the account rating is hot. So this is a good example of how good follow-up questions can help you craft more specific entry conditions and work towards those better performing flows that we spoke about. So this next step is all about controlling the chaos in your org, and it's really, really important. So by this stage, you've probably know what type of flow you need and when that logic should run, like what the entry conditions are. So the bare minimum question a flow builder should be asking at this stage is there a flow of the same type with the same entry conditions? If the answer to that question is yes, you should strongly consider adding to the existing flow and not creating a new one. And there's a couple of reasons for that. First and foremost, you're then not duplicating entry conditions in more than one place. And then secondly, you can look to do things like consolidate your update and get records elements so they're not repeated in both flows. And that leads nicely into my last point, which is about minimizing the number of pink elements that you have in your flows. And this is a really critical one to finish on. I'm sure many people on this call know that Salesforce limits how many times we can do things like create records, update records, delete records when automations run. These are called governor limits. So that really brings up a couple of considerations that are really critical. First and foremost, at the absolute bare minimum, you do not want to hit those limits because your flow is going to completely fail if you do. But the target shouldn't be to avoid limits. The target should be to build flows as efficiently as possible. So it's really important when you're building to look at ways you can consolidate using these elements and minimize them as much as possible so you can build better performing flows. Now, it's easy for me to sit here and say that, but how do you do that in practicality? Well, we don't have the time to cover every strategy in detail, so I'm going to walk through a couple at a high level that you can take away with you. So let's say we have a scenario where a loop is required to update a group of child records. So what you don't want to do is you don't want to put the update records element in the loop. The reason is because each record that is looped is going to individually run that update records element. And at best case, you're going to have a highly inefficient flow. Worst case, your flow is going to completely fail. Instead, focus on mastering using assignments, record variables, and record collection variables. So the general steps you would follow is you would use an assignment to set new field values when looping a record. Then you would use an assignment to add each record to a record collection variable. And then you would use an update records on the record collection variable outside of the loop. And what that means is all of the records are being updated in one go without having an update records individually for each one. And one final example is, let's assume you have an after save flow that might need to make multiple changes to a parent record. So don't use an update records on the parent record multiple times because you would be resaving that same record multiple times, which is inefficient. So very similar skills to learn here, which are assignment elements and record variables. So what you could do in this scenario is you could create a record variable for the parent record. You could use decisions to determine which changes are needed. You can use assignments to assign the parent ID and field values to the record variable. And then you can use an update records on the record variable at the end of the flow. and then all of the changes are saved in one go. So quickly to recap before I finish, have a flows per object strategy to avoid confusion and chaos in your org. Follow the golden rule for using before and after save flows correctly. Get as specific as possible with entry conditions to build better performing flows. Check your existing flows to avoid clutter. And finally, minimize the pink elements in your flows so you build better performing and more efficient flows. That's all I've got for today. Thank you very much. If you liked what I spoke about, feel free to follow or connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm going to take a short vacation, but I'll soon be back to writing every Monday through Friday about flow. Thank you.
Great. Cheers, Stephen. Yeah, amazing presentation. I wish I had time to ask you some questions, but I think that's all we've got time for before we move on. I'll put you in it now. Feel free to ask Stephen questions in the comments, and I'm sure he'll get around to them. But yeah, see you later, Stephen. Thanks a lot. So we got another quiz for more flow courses. So this question: how many individual elements can you visit in a flow before you hit governor limits? So how many elements can you visit in a flow? So put your answers in the chat and we will select a few right answers. I'm going to bring Eric back in just while we wait for people to... Hey, Eric, how's it going? Is it crazy?
Hello. It is tons of excitement here. So at the top here, you're able to see we have a lot of people submitting already on the first challenges. We have one person that's almost towards the last one. And that person is from Canada. Canada is on the leaderboard. Netherlands is the one that has submitted up to challenge 19. They start at 15, so it's only 7. And then we have 4 people here that are falling in line. So we have Turkey, the UK, and then Canada as well. So a lot of global competition going on, which is kind of cool. And you get to see the number of submissions over here. It's approved at the top. Then you have number of submissions here, basically by the different submissions. You see the funnel getting nice and busy. So we're getting there. So keeps moving forward. Exciting to see everything come along.
Amazing. Wow. Only a few people towards the end. So yeah, we'll see how that develops. Cheers, Eric. See you in a bit. I can see a lot of right answers. So, and a lot of people are correct. It is 2,000 elements that you can hit in total in one flow before you hit the governor limits. So thank you very much for participating. We'll let you know about who the winners are shortly. Right. So now we are going to bring in Pablo. Pablo, hello. How's it going?
Hey, Ben. Thanks. Doing great. Thanks for having me here. So
no
I'm
worries.
sharing.
Pleasure to have you.
Yeah, I'm sharing my screen.
I've got your screen right here. So
there we go.
I'll let you take it away.
Okay, so thanks. My name is Pablo. I'm a business engineer and architect at Salto. So I have 5 minutes. So I'll be very quick. So Salto is a certified app exchange partner, and we recently launched our free tier, which is a 100% free application. It's not a 30-day trial. And we have different functionalities such as metadata search. We also have where is this used for both standard and custom fields. We also allow you to see where anything is used in your org, so you can do impact analysis on Apex classes, Lightning Web Components, etc. We also have metadata comparison and change notifications so that you are aware when things are happening in your org. Now, because we're talking about flows today, I'm going to demo 2 things about how to explore flows in Salto and then how to see where flows are being used. And these are things that can help you when auditing flows, or maybe learning about flows that already exist in your org, or if you're planning to migrate some workflows into flows. Okay, so the use case here is, let's say I have this tiny flow that uses an account record variable, or a record variable that is an account object type. And so here in the flow UI, I can see where that variable is being used, but I cannot actually see exactly how it is used within any of these elements. So I actually have to click one by one and see exactly how is it that I'm using that account variable. So this is a problem, because if this is a big flow like the ones we're building for this competition, it's really hard for you to understand exactly what the flow is doing with the account. It could be creating that account, or it could be editing that account. It could be cloning it, just like we saw earlier, or it could be using the account ID or the name as a variable. There are infinite use cases. And as I said, the only way to know exactly where this variable is used and how is I need to click through all of the elements here and go through them one by one. Now, of course, I could download the flow metadata in Visual Studio Code and then do a Control F for account variable, but I'm sure no one really wants to spend time trying to understand what this XML is doing. So as you can see, the flow metadata is really hard to understand. So Salto allows you to then visualize your metadata in a way that I'm sure no one's ever been able to do before. So I can open up the same flow in Salto, and I can see all the details here. So as you can see, I can see all the assignments, decisions, formulas, etc. So let's go ahead and search for that variable. So I'm gonna just drop it in there. And very quickly, I can see where we are using that variable. So I can see we're using it in an assignment where the customer priority field is being assigned the value critical. I can just keep going down the list here. And now I see that it's also being used in a decision element. And as you can see, it's really easy to understand the flow metadata, way easier than looking at the XML file. And again, I can just keep going down the list here, and I can see, for example, that we're using that on a formula as well. And finally, I can see the actual variable of type as object, where the object type is account. And now that I'm here, I have a question, which is, can I see any other flow that is used in the account object as a whole? As I said, maybe I'm auditing my flows, or I'm trying to migrate process builders to flows. And before I start, I want to see all the flows that have something to do with the account object as a whole. Maybe flows that are updating records of the account object, deleting, creating, etc. So yes, I can just click on the account object here. And now I'm looking at the account object as a whole in Salto. And I can go here and look at the use by, which is basically the where is this used for the account object. So I'm not looking at one field, I'm looking at where the account object is used across my entire org. And I can see here that there are multiple flows that are used in the account object. And so here's the SalesforceBen example one. And I can just open up here and I can see all the places where that flow uses the account object. So let's say I'm looking at this and I go, I would like to understand how exactly is it that this flow is using the account object in what seems to be a record update. Then again, I can just click on it. And just like that, I'm taken to the exact location where that variable is, or where the account object is being used in that flow, which in this case happens to be a record update. So really easy to understand what's going on with your flows, much faster than going through each element and opening up one by one. Now, another use case is there is an idea on the idea exchange about being able to see where a flow is used. As you know, flows can be used in other flows as subflows. They can be called from process builders. They can be used in Apex classes, Aura components, buttons, and lightning actions as well. So, for example, I have this flow that I know is used everywhere, but there is no way for me to see, there's no where is this use button, just like there is for custom fields. So I cannot see what are the locations where this flow is used. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy the API name, and I'm going to demo Salto's full text search capability. So I'm just going to drop that in there. And now very quickly, I can see all the places where that flow is used. I can see that it's used in one of my buttons. I can see that it's used in a custom label as well. It's also used in multiple flows. And I can even see that it's being used in one Apex class, as you can see here. And it is also used in a Lightning component in the JavaScript controller. So this is really nice because now we have essentially what's been asked by the community, and it was just like a 5 seconds effort. So that's it. There's a lot more stuff that you can do with Salto. This was really just a preview. And so we have a webinar on May 31st where I'm going to go freestyle and show a lot more of the use cases that we have. So I would love for you to join us. And if you want to try the free tier, you can go to app.salto.io and just sign up for free. So that's it. Thanks, everyone.
Cheers, Pablo. Thanks a lot for your presentation, and thanks a lot for Salto for sponsoring. It's a great help. And I'll catch you later. Bye-bye. So next up, very glad to introduce Stuart. I'm going to add you in now, Stuart. Hey, Stuart.
Hey, Ben.
So it's a pleasure to speak to you and for Salesforce to reach out to support this event. So thank you very much. And I believe you're going to tell us some stuff about how people can learn more about flows. So I'll add your presentation in now, and I'll let you take it away.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, Ben, and thank you for having me here. So hello, Flow Fanatics. I'm Stuart Werner. I'm a principal instructor here at Salesforce working for Trailhead Academy. And, like you, I'm a huge Flow. I'm a huge fan of Flow, and I'm passionate about helping trailblazers like you learn how to build and use flows. At our recent TDX event, I wrote a hands-on workshop for Flow and had 2 sold-out sessions, standing room only. So I really understand how much people want to use Flow and how much they want to learn it. So I want to quickly share some background about why Salesforce has moved our focus to Flow solutions away from traditional automation tools like Workflow and Process Builder, and also share a few Flow resources that I recommend to help you learn Flow. So what Salesforce did a little while ago was did an analysis. And what we saw was that most of your automations were performing same record changes. So what we saw is that if you use record trigger flows, specifically using your fast field updates, that's your before save record trigger flow, like Steven mentioned earlier, you're going to get faster performance of your automation. And by using Flow, you have access to calling invocable actions. That means you can call Apex directly from your Flow. We have process types. We have a whole bunch of pre-built templates that will allow you to have a good starting point for writing your business logic. And we have subflows where you can make your business logic a lot more readable and easier to maintain. Of course, we have the built-in debugging tool, which you saw in the demo earlier. And now there is a testing tool that is allowing you to perform a unit test, similar to what your Apex developers do. All right, so now what I want to do is I want to talk about some free training that is available through Trailhead. Now, if you're a beginner to Flow and want to learn how the tool works, please take the Flow Basics Trailhead module. This is a nice overview of all the different things that you can do with our Flow tool. Now, once you've had your start and you're thinking about, well, what can I do to replace my workflows and processes, you could dive into record trigger flows. This is a brand new Trailhead module that will give you some insight on how to continue. Then, for an even deeper dive, I found this new Trailhead module, Use Custom Metadata Types in Flow, which allows you to bring a more dynamic experience to your Flow programming experience. And then there's this great blog that's available, written by some Salesforce admins, called The Ultimate Guide to Flows. In this blog, you're going to find some terrific best practices and standards, right? But maybe you're looking for more high-touch learning experience. Well, that's where my team, Trailhead Academy, comes in. So we provide training globally, and coming up in June 27th is a Trailblazer Bootcamp in Berlin. And I will be delivering the App Builder track there. It's going to be a 5-day expert-led training experience where we're going to dive deep into Flow training. But the other advantage of coming to one of our boot camps is you get to sit twice for your Salesforce certification, and you get to connect with your fellow trailblazers. It's a way to network in our Salesforce ecosystem. Networking is everything in this ecosystem, as you've known. But in addition to the Bootcamp Berlin experience, we have our traditional in-person or virtual expert-led classes that cover Flow. Specifically, we have our declarative development for platform app builder, our Dex 403 class. At the beginning of this year, we started presenting over 2 days of Flow development. I started working with the Flow product team almost 2 years ago as the record trigger flows came into being and made sure that people taking this course had this hand-on experience so that when they went back to work on Monday, they can start writing record trigger flows and screen flows. Now, we also have a nice virtual alternative, our Trailhead Virtual Bootcamp for Outbuilders. This is a 30-day prescribed learning journey where you get hands-on exercises and you spend a little over 2 hours a week with our certified Salesforce instructors. It's a nice alternative. All right, cool. And, for attending the FlowFest today, Trailhead Academy is excited to offer you 25% off on either the App Builder track at Trailblazer Bootcamp Berlin or the classes I just mentioned. So take a picture of this slide so you have this info. This code will give you 25% off, which is a really good discount, on these training events. You can go to the URL on the lower left-hand side to register for the Berlin Trailblazer Bootcamp. That's our boot camps are a lot of fun. We just did one in San Francisco. We just did one in Washington, D.C. I mean, live training is back. Or you could register for our 5-day offerings. Anyway, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to present at FlowFest. This is a really exciting opportunity, and I look forward to seeing who the winners are and what some of the items are. Thanks, Ben.
Great. Thanks so much, Stuart. Cheers. And completely agree. It's amazing to have live events, just, in-person events again. So, Dreamforce and all the world tours are coming up. So that should be really exciting. So another quiz. This time, the question is, and remember, this is to win some Flow courses from Andy Utkan and Daryl Moon. So this one is, if anyone can get the right answer, then it's pretty impressive. But otherwise, it's the closest who gets it. So the question is, how many automations does Salesforce run in 1 month? As in the entire Salesforce company, how many customer automations are running in total on every single org in the world? And why? Hello, Eric.
Is this where Dr. Evil says 1 bazillion, million, trillions? We'll see whoever can find that one. We'll see whoever can find that one. I see some answers coming in already. So let me just do a quick refresh here. So we have started, I think maybe we're refreshing so much because I know other team members are. But I know we've come along. People have started submitting their challenges. We already have 10 people who've made it to the penultimate one. I know already, I've seen the comments internal on Slack that we already have someone on the submission. I don't know why this is not being reviewed. So we are already reviewing all of the work for a couple of individuals. And so it's a lot of exciting stuff, so we'll hopefully have some winners to announce very soon.
Nice. Great. Thank you very much, Eric. Yeah. We'll see you in a bit.
Yeah, no problem.
So I'm seeing some pretty good answers. 2 billion, 1 trillion, 6.5 billion. So the actual answer is 1.3 trillion automations. I should have put a link here, but if you type into Google Salesforce 1.3 trillion automations, you can see the press release they put out, which just shows the scale of how much time Salesforce is saving for customers around the world. So yes, there we go. Cool. Right, so we have our final presentation now from Tim Combridge, who should be available. I'm just going to add him in now. Hey, Tim. You're live. You're muted.
Of course I am. There we go.
There we go.
How are you, Ben?
I can hear you loud and clear now. Yeah, very well. It's been a great event. It's all going on behind the scenes, and I think after your presentation, we're going to be ready to announce the FlowFest champion. So
that's going to be exciting.
Forward to see who it is. Yeah.
Awesome.
So
well,
I'll switch over to you now.
Amazing. All right. Well, I will go through a quick sort of discussion on some Flow updates coming in summer 22, and then we will get back to the winner. So I'm Tim Combridge. I've been working in the Salesforce industry for between 5 and 6 years. That's a picture of me before the pandemic. So look, we've already, I don't need to tell anybody here why flows are incredible. I'm pretty sure everyone's already aware, and we've had some fantastic speakers on today talking about that already. But basically a recap, flows are incredible because they're easy to learn for new learners. There's a user-friendly flow builder interface. There's no need to use code with flows from the get-go. So functionality that was previously reserved for programmatic tools like Apex or Lightning Web are available inside of Flow and can be sort of configured declaratively without having to write a line of code. The Flow tool obviously is frequently upgraded and enhanced, which I'm going to go through some of the new upgrades and enhancements coming in the Summer 22 upgrade now. It's an extremely powerful and comes with an extremely powerful and easy to use debugging and testing tool, which is one of the things we'll talk about today. And it's useful for behind the scenes automations and of course bespoke user interface creations with ScreenFlow. So there's going to be three major enhancements that I'm going to talk about in detail today. That's not the limit of how many new features are coming inside of Flow with the Summer 22 upgrade, and I'll go through sort of a few more at the end, but there's three that I really do want to focus on today and give you a bit of a demonstration on as well. So the first one is adding collapsible section headers into Flow screens, which is very, very cool visually. Name and address field support for screen flows as well. So using the fields functionality in there, you can add in name and address fields, which is great because Summer 22 also brings the ability to create custom address fields, so that's handy. And finally, Flow automated testing for record triggered flows. That's a question that I've received a lot, is why can't we have sort of an automated testing functionality with Flow like we can for Apex? So without further ado, let me continue. So down the bottom left throughout these next three slides too, you'll see a little QR code. If you're watching on a desktop and you want to learn more, that QR code links straight to the Salesforce release notes, so you'll be able to read more about it there. So collapsible section headers in Flow screens. So Flow screens, you were able to create sections in the past. There you can see on the right a screenshot that was broken down into 3 columns. And now it also has a section header over the top. So job details basically creates a bit of a visual hierarchy, similar to what you got inside of page layouts. And they're also collapsible, which is functionally fantastic, especially when you've got a large screen on a flow and you don't want to have to break it up into multiple screens to make it easy for the user. You can allow them to just collapse each section and handle each one as they come. So that's collapsible section headers inside of flow screens. Secondly, name and address field support for ScreenFlow. So in the fields beta, when you're creating a screen flow, you can now add in name and address fields from an object directly onto your screen flow, which is going to be very, very cool. And we'll go through an example there in a second. So the fields beta functionality, as you know, uses a record variable to identify the type of fields that can be placed directly without needing to configure each one manually, which is very, very cool. And finally, number 3, and this is my favorite, I'm not going to lie, it's Flow automated testing for record triggered flows. So you can perform some batch testing against your record triggered flows, and it functions very similar to Apex. So you write your Apex tests, and you can run them in bulk to make sure that everything functions as expected, and you can test against a number of assertions. So let's go into a quick demo. So the scenario that we have been presented today is your business. Basically, they want to run a report on accounts and they want to group that report by industry. However, there's a number of accounts that have been created without industry, and it's a bit of a bad habit and it just makes the data look a bit dirty. So your manager has come to you and said, hey, look, we need a solution. Can you basically enforce that any account created, if the industry is not manually set by the user, the value is then set to other, just so it sort of cleans up the data a little bit. So the way that we've done that is fairly straightforward, just a quick record triggered flow on the account. It checks if the account has an industry value, and then if it doesn't, it assigns one. Okay, so fairly straightforward. Record industry sets it to other. Now, the previous way that we could test this is by jumping in and you know, a few tools inside of Flow that have existed for a long time, such as debug. But now you'll see this new view tests beta functionality. I'm going to go in here and click view tests. So I've created 2 tests, okay? The test labels that I've got are test with industry set and test without industry set. Fairly straightforward. We're going to test and make sure that it works the way we're expected when the industry value is not set. And then of course make sure that it doesn't disrupt anything when the industry is set. So if I jump into here and go edit on this test with industry, fairly straightforward again. This is what the initial record is going to look like. So I've gone down and I've set the account name, and the industry I've set to agriculture. So our assertion here is that we're expecting the industry at the end of the transaction to be equal to agriculture. In other words, unchanged. If I go down here to this next test and I click on edit, so this is when the industry is not set. So if I go to my initial record again, we can see that the account name is set, but the industry is not. So our assertion here is that instead of industry being blank, we want it to be set to other at the end of the transaction because of the way the flow functions. So I can run them one by one, which we can see here, run test and view details, or I can tick the box and hit run, and it will show me the last time it was run and what the result is this time. And if I go ahead and I go run test and view details just on one, we can see here, full details of how the interview started, the conditions and all the various elements that it's gone through, and finally the assertion. So we're expecting other, and it does indeed equal other, which is what we want to see. And all this is, your standard sort of stuff that we would have seen in the debug tool previously. That was great. That was a great solution. However, your managers come back to you and said that they want to enhance the solution a little bit further. So not only now do they just want to populate other where there was no other value, they want to make it easier to create accounts with very few sort of fields on it. Similar to a quick action, but we're doing it inside of a flow in this case. Let me show you what that screen would look like. So what we've done here is I've created, we can see these sections again. So I've broken them down into, in this case, multiple sections for account specifics. We've got multiple columns within that account specific section. We've also got the account name and some important additional information that your managers required to be captured, of course, are the address fields. So the way I've configured that, I've gone into the fields beta and I've added in the account variable that we got in there. And this is showing me a list of all the fields on the account object that I can just drag and drop and put straight on the screen, which now includes, as you can see, the account name and the billing address in here. We've also added industry so that basically we're creating a quick create action with multiple columns, collapsible headers, make it a little bit easier for your users to see what they're doing. So if I quickly jump into debug here, we'll have a bit of a look at what that looks like. I'll open this up again so we can compare the flow builder to what it will look like on the front end. So there you go. You can put in your account name. These account addresses here are what I want to focus on. So I'll collapse the other two for now, which we can do. Thank you to the new headers section. We can see here that I've got the billing address and the shipping address fields in here. They're broken down into billing street, city, zip postal, state, province, country, etc. per field. So you don't have to configure each and every one of them one by one, which is a massive time saver, and it ensures that you have, with one visual element, you're able to sort of capture all that very rich information from your users. So that's a quick demo, very, very quick. I'm aware of the time of those three features that we talked about before. The first one being the collapsible section headers in flow screens. So you can use that to create visual hierarchy. And of course, like I said, functionally, you can collapse them, which makes it a little bit easier for users to focus on a certain section of data. Name and address field support for screen flow as well. So now, as we just demonstrated, rather than having to create multiple fields inside of your screen and configure each one correctly and then assign it back to the correct fields inside of Salesforce, we can now just drag and drop a single address cluster of fields, I suppose, onto the screen, which is again going to be very helpful alongside that other Summer 22 feature, which is the ability to create custom address fields. And finally, flow automated testing. So we talked about batch testing, testing one by one, and testing assertions as well. So there's a couple other features that I wanted to briefly touch on now. I won't demonstrate these ones for time's sake. So you can now drag flows to adjust the order in Flow Trigger Explorer, which is very, very handy. You can launch screen flows from Slack now, which is very cool as well. Custom label performance enhancements. So when you're using custom labels inside of your flow, Salesforce has made a few tweaks there to make that perform a bit more efficiently. Another one that I very much liked was custom icons on Apex actions. So you can use the standard SLDS library or upload your own custom vector graphic into there to make, instead of just the repetitive Apex action icon over and over, you can upload a custom one, which will help sort of visually differentiate in your larger flows. You can use formula now as an entry condition on a flow. There are changes to the connected UI elements, so you can see a little bit easier which element you're connecting to using that connected element feature. Additionally, there are some accessibility improvements to Flow Builder. We've had a bunch of renames of Salesforce features. So Einstein Automate is now Salesforce Flow, or now referred to as Salesforce Flow. MuleSoft Composer is now Flow Integration, which is very exciting. And there's been some enhancements, of course, to Flow Orchestrator, including now change set support, the ability to move flow orchestrations across from one org to another. So we talked at the beginning why Flow is awesome, and I mean, there's no doubt that Flow is the future. With the death, I suppose, of workflow rules and processes. So there's new tools and new features added under the Flow name with each release, enhancements and upgrades, which we talked about, more and more functionality that was previously only available programmatically. So we've seen, in recent releases, the ability to handle deletions, which was something that, used to be reserved basically for Apex. Performance is far superior to predecessors, and that, as we saw with the custom labels, that's enhanced very frequently. I've already mentioned workflow rules and processes are set to be retired soon, and there are migration tools available. With the Migrate to Flow tool actually going GA in the Summer 22 release as well. And Flow is everywhere, so it's not just your Flow from 5 years ago with Cloud Flow Designer. We're now talking about embedding Flow into other Salesforce products, such as, like we saw, Slack, which is going to be exciting. Thank you again. I hope you're excited for future Flow enhancements beyond Summer 22. I'm sure they'll be great. Thanks, Ben.
Great. Cheers, Tim. And a quick question just before you go, actually.
Yes.
If someone's been watching FlowFest and thinking, boy, I don't understand Flow whatsoever, where are the best resources for people to start?
Look, there's a lot of fantastic resources out there. We've got, obviously, Daryl's got his, Daryl Moon from Certify CRM has his course that we're sort of doing a bit of a promo on today. We've also got the Trailhead team. There's a bunch of resources out there. There's actually a course as well on your side, I think, Ben. If you head over to,
I think so.
to courses.
It's coming out soon, I think. Or is it out? Is it out?
I think it's actually available now.
Wow.
Yeah. So if you head over to courses.salesforceben.com, there'll be an ultimate foundational course for Salesforce Flow, which I sort of lead, and I'll sort of run you through the basics of Salesforce Flow, important best practices, and there's a couple of hands-on projects in there as well.
And Tim, let me jump in here. I also got another follow-up for you, just out of curiosity.
Yes.
I've been a developer. I've been an admin or declarative developer for the longest time. I've never written a line of code that ever went to production, and that's a good thing.
Fantastic.
For everyone else, because my code is horrible. But it feels like ultimately there's it's almost like you're finding a new category, because before it was admins and developers, but now there's admins that know Flow, and developers. I wanted to kind of hear a little bit about your thoughts into this new if you agree with this category, this declarative admin, whatever you want to call it, and the importance that you think it's going to play in the couple of years to come.
Look, it's a really, really good question. I think right now you're right. There's sort of admins, there's admins that know Flow, and then there's your developers and programmatic developers. I think in the near future, what we're going to see is all admins will understand Flow to some degree. It's going to be like a core requirement of what you sort of do as an admin, is you have to understand Flow. You have to understand at least the basics of how it works, and the different types of Flow, how to configure them. So flow is an extremely valuable skill, like somebody was mentioning earlier too. I think it was, Ben at the very beginning, mentioning that with flow being such a popular feature, having the FlowFest champion title in your resume or on LinkedIn is fantastic. And I think, look, going forward, if you want to be a Salesforce admin, you have to understand, the basics of securities and configuring custom objects and all that. But just like an admin today is probably expected to understand workflow rules and process builder to a degree, I think flows, at least the basics of flows, will be sort of a staple requirement understanding for all admins. So at the moment, I think you're very right there, Eric. There's sort of admins, there's declarative developers, and then there's, I suppose, programmatic developers. But I think we'll see a shift soon where admins and declarative developers will sort of fuse into one, and it'll become sort of the expected knowledge, if that makes sense.
Yeah, makes total sense. And I think Salesforce came out the other day with a roadmap, right, of when they're phasing out the different automation tools. I don't know if you saw that, but it was workflow rules end of this year, process builder kind of Q1, Q2 next year, that you won't be able to create
like
anymore.
Yeah.
And then there's a process builder migration tool, I think, coming out Q1 something next year as well. So
winter 23.
It's not long.
I think it was.
Yeah. I'll give a big shout out to Andy Etkin. He posted that. It's on his LinkedIn feed. And I think they're doing workflows because it's easier, maybe technically, because certainly the bigger troublemakers are process builders. So it'll be interesting when they stop supporting that, and I will be ready to throw a party the day they take away the create new process builder button. But that's me.
Oh yeah. I'm with you there, very much with you there.
Sounds good.
Great.
Ben, anything else on your end before?
Thank you very much, Tim. We'll catch you later.
Thank you, team.
No, I mean, I'm just gonna. So we're very close to crowning the FlowFest champion. So I'm gonna phase out now and pass over to Eric. I'm not invited for the after party, so there we go. I'd just like to say thank you. I'd just like to say thank you for everyone for attending and supporting FlowFest. It's been really fun being your host. And everyone who's participating in FlowFest, thank you to them, all our speakers who've put in loads of effort with their presentations. So yeah, I think it's been a great event, and I'm going to stick around in the background just to find out who the FlowFest champion is. But Eric, I'll let you take over and talk a bit about FlowFest V3 as well as the FlowFest champ.
Yeah, thank you, Ben. Appreciate you, and we're looking forward to the next one.
See you later. Definitely. See you there.
Yeah. So before we move forward, I just want to let everybody know, I will put the link into the description. I'll put the link in the descriptions, but we actually started a website. We've gotten so much attention. This is kind of cool. So we've actually started a website, and we just opened the registration for the next FlowFest, which is going to be August 31st. So if you're interested, it's a simple website. It is flowfest.fans. I'll put a comment here. And then feel free to go there right now or after the event. And then register for FlowFest V3. It'll be on August 31st. So we're excited about that. We're excited about having Ben back with us and doing all this together. But with that said, we had a really interesting, our dashboard's alive right now with all the different submissions. I'm happy to say that we finally have our winner, and we're going to see if he or she's able to join. But I'm just trying to bring them up here. So the winner of FlowFest V2, and we have judges busy. I'm trying to see if everyone can join me just in case. But the winner of FlowFest V2 is coming all the way from France. The company that he is representing is the Hardest Group. If I'm pronouncing that correctly, then the winner is participant number 0180. He is the one that basically got all of these submissions. Got all of these submissions correct. And let me see here. So, I can zoom in. All of the submissions got submitted correctly. Participant number 0180, and his name is Florian Pinal. The interesting thing about global competitions is, trying to manage that. So a big congratulations. We actually do have a couple of others. The runner-up, I can hopefully bring that up as well. The runner-up, and actually I don't want to share their contact info here, but the runner-up, so if the winner comes from Canada, the runner-up comes all the way, if the winner comes from France, the runner-up comes all the way from Canada, and his name is Rajiv Ivor. And so basically, guys, these two guys are, the runner-up and the FlowFest champion, Florian. I don't know if we can get them here for a quick shout out while we remain for some best practice session. But guys, big congratulations to them. It's awesome to be able to do these events. If you enjoyed them, I want to do a big thank you once again for SalesforceBen. I want to give a big thank you to the folks at Ohanaly, to the folks at Salto. I want to give a massive thank you to all of the judges that have put this together. We're going to stick around and we're going to bring in the judges as we can to talk a little bit about some of the the best practices, the things that we like the most, but I really appreciate everyone's effort. We broke records on this one actually, which is kind of super exciting. We basically had over 2,200 registrants, and it means a lot for you guys to be able to give the support. Hopefully we'll be able to we'll reach out to you guys. You guys can send us some feedback. We want to hear about your experience. We want to hear about what we can do to make this FlowFest even better. But with that said, let me go ahead and I'm going to quickly share just for everyone's visibility. Welcome, Melody.
Oh,
so
hi.
Just for everyone's visibility here, just to see the amount of support that we got for this awesome educational event. We had over 2,200 people registered, 111 today alone, 77 countries from different places. Big shout out to some of the companies that have come in large support, such as Talent Stacker, Salesforce, Rocket Mortgage, Accenture, and Slalom. So it was really, really cool putting this together. We're looking really forward to FlowFest V3. But with that, I'm going to switch it up to Melody here. And Melody, I'm going to go ahead and ask you, let's kick it off with some best practices. I can even open up some of the challenges if we want to share with the crowd. Did you see anything that you liked? What was your experience, from the back end?
Well, I think this time we kind of step up the game a bit too much, because last time we had 5 challenges and this time we had 7. And also we kind of upgraded the challenges a little bit because we were super excited about the fix my flow concept. So then we just kind of went crazy when we were designing the challenges. And then we kind of realized maybe we didn't take the time into consideration. Yeah, but it was really exciting seeing all the submissions coming through, and then we do see everybody was working really hard. So yeah, it was really, really nice.
Yeah, this is a particularly interesting one. I think last time a lot of people completed the challenges very quickly, and we had everyone ready. This time we wanted to give a little bit more time. Everyone started even sooner, and but we definitely dialed up some of the challenges in what we were putting together. Warren, what do you see on your end? I know you're busy there. I'm bringing you on board. Can you actually talk, or are you still extremely busy?
I can definitely talk. It was very interesting. We, just like Melody said, we kind of went maybe a little bit overboard. We wanted to make it challenging, but it's going down to the wire, at least in checking the final questions and validating who won. So yeah, we're trying to bring some people on as well to review some of the things that we're going over. But it was extremely fun. Lots of good conversation around it. Lots of learning lessons, of course, for hopefully the next one that we'll be doing.
Yeah, that's awesome. And Melody, what was the challenge that you think was the most exciting for this one? And do we want to give a quick breakdown? I can try to open it up and we can give a quick walkthrough. I know you've done 18 already, and that we displayed that a little bit earlier. But anything in particular that you think, hey, this challenge covers some really good insights, or this is something that we've seen people do really well with, during the competition?
Yeah, good question. Let me think through the challenges. How about the one with the IDS variables? Do you like that one?
There was 20 and 21. 20 was the one that we had the DML inside the loop, and 21 was the one with the var lead ID, the one that the missing lead ID.
Actually, how about Eric? Do you want to just talk about 21?
Okay, I will do 21. Let's bring it up. Yeah. So for everyone that's interested, here we're going to do some best practices right now, and basically, let me bring up the screen. So this is one of the challenges that competitors have been going through and continue to go through right now. So effectively, in this challenge, or actually, this is the one already completed. So one of the big pieces is the one that's already completed. It's not. Perfect. So the basic challenge here is premised as a company that is struggling with the flow that they've put together. Basically, they want to have all the leads come in. They want to compare the leads coming in to their existing accounts and be able to match to an account if possible. And if not, they want to be able to assign a status or a rating. And there's a lot of common things that are usually mistaken. Like when you're doing loops inside of loops, there's a lot of things that you got to consider. So one of the things that we do in this one is that we start by getting all of the accounts, and then we get all of the open leads. So we're getting all of the accounts that are in the system, and then we get all of the open leads that we want to check them against. And we have it here already with all the filter open, not contacted, but this still could be a lot of records if your org is very large. So you could run into a lot of potential issues. So we start by adding a filter, which is a fairly recent functionality, piece of element functionality, to be able to filter out only the leads that have the same company as the account that you're currently looping. So that way, to prevent every account loop to loop endlessly through all of the leads, you can lessen that load tremendously, because it was one of the quiz questions. You only have 2,000 runs before you hit your limits. You can filter that out significantly for only the ones that have the matching company name. And then once you do, you loop that filtered element and you assign the status and the description, all of these items. The one piece that's missing here is that when you're looping and you're going to update a record, you have to assign the ID for the record. So one of the things that was missing here is making sure that you could add the ID based on the lead that you're actually looping. So this was one of the big challenges here. And then adding to the collection is fine. So that's one of the biggest challenges that were there for this challenge. The second challenge was in the loop element itself. The collection variable that's being looped is actually the incorrect one. So you did the filter element, but we were looping this one instead of the output from this one. So what needed to be done was to change this to use the collection variable that's generated by that filter element that you have. So again, you want to lessen the amount of loops that you're doing, the amount of iterations you're doing. You want to try to keep it within your 2,000 limit. And then the final piece, here you update all the matched leads, but you still have to update the ones that you have not matched with hot, warm, and cold. And this was based on number of employees for the data set that we were working with. But this one, the update warm leads, goes with number of employees greater than 500. The challenge is that this will undo what this element does, which is greater than 1500. Because here's greater than 1500 only, but the other one is greater than 500. So everything that's 1500 above will just be negated. That was done here will be negated by this one. So you had to update the entry criteria here as well in order to finish. Now, in full defense, this was the final challenge, which one of the tougher ones in the competition. But this is just a brief overview. So, Melody, I don't know if you got any thoughts, and I know we got a couple of judges. We'll try to bring them on here as well.
Yeah, let's bring them on and then let them join the conversations as well.
What's going on, Tom?
Hiya.
And all right, what do you think, Tom? What are your impressions? What did you like about this one so far? You're the runner-up. You were in the competition seat last time. This time you were here as one of the judges. What were some of your thoughts?
I personally, I think of all of the challenges, as a judge, I completed the challenges myself a couple of days ago. 18 was the tricky one for me. Those formulas for the record links. That's something that you're already going to know if you've done that type of thing before. If you haven't done that type of thing before, that's a really good.
I'm going to drop off of this.
Nice.
I was bringing Pete in. Maybe I brought him a second too early.
Yeah.
So, what's going on, Pete?
Sorry, I was the contestant can't view the Zoom chat anymore, so I had to read him out the letters of the stream ID.
Oh, okay. Do you want to come back in a second, or?
No, he should be on his way. He should be in the waiting room.
All right, sounds good. So I see someone here. I see a couple in the waiting room. These are supposed. I'm guessing these are the winners. Hello. Bring in a couple of the fellas. How are you doing?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Not
sure why I'm here.
Oh, fair enough. Do you want to quickly introduce yourself?
So I'm Karol. I'm from Slovakia, from Košice. I'm working for Blues company, and I love flows. This is my second FlowFest. I was on the first and didn't get to first top 10. So
yeah, what did you think of the event so far?
It was actually great. It was definitely harder than the first one. It was really tricky, and sometimes I was sweating, and I wanted to go for a walk to fresh my mind, but I need to stick there. So it was harder, definitely harder, and the tricky one. So thank you for that.
Yeah. So, and this time around, you made it to the top 10. So you'll get, you're getting a cert voucher coming your way. Speaking of cert vouchers, Rajiv, welcome all the way from Canada, right? I don't know if we can hear you. Might get the mic settings there.
Can anyone hear me? Checking.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh, there we go. Okay. Yes, coming in from Toronto. I had no idea I even made.
Oh, I'm not too far from you. I'm down in Buffalo.
I think we just lost Rajiv's audio for a second.
Yeah, I think we lost your audio again, Rajiv.
So
check. Sorry, I had to leave the other session. Apologies for all of the back and forth.
No, it's okay. First off, congratulations.
Thank you.
What'd you think of the event? What are some of your thoughts?
Loved it. I would say that this was a little bit of a brain teaser, right? Especially it's a really good example of like read and then try and figure it out, and then I managed to completely twist myself going through it. But I love the exercise, and I love getting more people into flows, right? This is just a great way to get more process automation that's less coding. So loved it. Thank you.
Very cool. And Florian, you're jumping in all the way from France. You are the FlowFest winner. You're FlowFest champion. So, congratulations, my friend. Talk to us. What'd you think about the event? What'd you like about it?
Very good. I tried in my company to create something with the flow, something to make move. And I think that this event is going to this way, and I think it's real good. The exercise was nice, were nice, and I'm very happy to be the winner this time.
Congrats, man. And listen, you're from France. Do you want to give a couple of words in French for anyone that's watching that's from your country? S'il vous plaît.
Oui. Du coup, s'il y en a qui regardent de France, participez au prochain. C'est chouette comme événement. Et voilà.
Thank you, Florian. So, just a final question there for you. Is there anything in particular that you enjoyed, or anything in specific that you want to highlight?
The exercise was very different and give an overview of what we can do with Flow, what we have to take care about it. So I think it's very good, and I'm looking forward to see the other one.
Sounds good. Yeah, I appreciate you. Carol, I'm going to remove you for a second. So I appreciate you, Carol. I just want to bring someone else in as well. But congratulations on making the top 10, Carol. And, we may bring you back in a second. But I want to add in Rakesh, Automation Hour, and Daryl. I know you guys jumped in. To anyone that's watching, the vast majority of the judges are here. And then you have Florian and Rajiv, who are the winner and the FlowFest champion and the FlowFest runner-up. But I'll start with you, Daryl. It's late, man. You're all the way in Australia. I really appreciate you for being here. What do you think? Anything in particular that stood out for you that you enjoyed?
Yes, it was obviously a bit tougher this time than last time. There were some quite interesting flows there. So I think Melody and a couple of the other judges, Tom in particular, and Melody did a really good job of making them tougher this time. And we were sweating on the timeline, hoping that somebody was going to finish in time, and they just got over the line.
Yeah.
I want to shout out to you as well. Our winner last time also did a lot of the challenges for us this time.
Yeah. So I think Yumi, being the first FlowFest champion, he just wanted to make sure that nobody else got a chance to win FlowFest again. So, Yumi, passing it over to you. What did you think?
Yeah, I think it was a great event. Of course, it was a little harder than the first one, but yeah, I knew that someone would solve everything correctly, and yeah, we have a new winner. So the last 3 months were great, being the one and only FlowFest champion, but now there's a new one, but it's completely okay with me.
Yeah, and you'll always be the first.
Yeah.
And just to wrap this up, because I know we're a little over time, I want to give Rakesh and Pete a chance to say hi. And Rakesh, thank you, and thank you to all the judges. But Rakesh, over to you. What'd you like? What'd you enjoy?
Thank you for the opportunity. And I like it. This time the challenges were a bit harder, I can say, but I really like. And one thing that you guys have done phenomenal is using all the latest and greatest feature of Salesforce in your challenges, like filters and collection sort. So this is very, very good, and pushing participants to keep up to date themselves so that they can solve the challenges. So thank you.
Yeah, great. Pete, I'll give the final word to you. Tom, I don't know if you got a chance to chat, but Pete, I'll pass it to you, and maybe Tom, I'll wrap it up with you.
So something about these challenges being a little too hard might have to do with me and Eric having this, I really enjoyed the Fix My Flow, but the problem is that, me and Eric kind of get, and a lot of the judges here, we get pretty hardcore with our flows. And it's difficult for us to gauge what is a reasonable challenge. So we thought we, pulled the punches a little bit too much last time. This time we went pretty hard on it, but you know, I mean, business requirements are oftentimes, you know, merciless and brutal. So should not a good contest. But my favorite part, definitely the fix your flows. I thought that was an amazing twist over last time, and hopefully we can come up with some other interesting curveballs for the next iteration.
Yeah, sounds good. And all credit for the Fix My Flows to Melody. She was the one that first brought it up, and we all ate it up alive. We were just like, oh my God, how can we break 10 million flows to like have people, you know, challenge it out? So I'm getting ready to. So Tom, over to you.
Yeah, I think certainly from my point of view, maybe a little bit biased.
Once again, thank you.
Wrote this one, but I think the hidden gem here was component visibility. Something that you don't necessarily use every day, but here we kind of tested that, and also the age-old best practice of having error screens whenever something doesn't work and displaying an error message. Again, kind of trying to instill that in our challenges here.
Yeah. So I'm just going to quickly wrap it up because I know we're over time, but I want to say a big thank you to everyone's here, the winners that participated. I know Carol is also in the background, so I'll bring him in here for a quick one. Also, just to say, you know, thank you. This was a lot of fun to put together. Hopefully this was educational for everyone. We do want to follow up with some videos and maybe a package for everyone that wants to try the challenges themselves and watch a video with step-by-step instructions on how to do these so you can up your game. Hopefully this is another different, exciting way of building flows and becoming better at flows and understanding some of the cool challenges. The FlowFest V1 challenges are available. We'll make the FlowFest V2 challenges. We'll be announcing all the top 10 winners by sometime next week. And I hope you all enjoyed it once again. I can't thank everyone here enough. This was so exciting to put together. But for now, go to flowfest.fans, www.flowfest.fans. Feel free to register for the V3. And, you know, we'll see you guys at the end of August. But thank you, everyone. And hope everyone has a fantastic evening, fantastic afternoon, fantastic day, all of that good stuff. Thank you all so much once again. So from all of us, have a good one.